Notre Dame taking on Ohio State in Atlanta, Georgia, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Ohio State is an early 9.5 point favorite, as Vegas has indicated. The over/under set at 45.5. This one is going down on Monday, January 20th, 7:30 Eastern time. Ohio State has been on quite the tear, Mason. And you could say the same about Notre Dame. Obviously, to get to this point, you've got to win several playoff games in a row. And Ohio State didn't play for a conference championship, nor did Notre Dame. Obviously, Ohio State coming off that Michigan loss that absolutely just lit a fire under the Buckeyes. And ever since, they've absolutely been on a tear. Notre Dame has got a will to win, Mason, that really has been second to none this season. They've figured out ways to win football games most of the time by double digits this season. These games have gotten obviously closer. We just saw them with the 3-point win over Penn State, took advantage of a late interception from Drew Aller, drove down the field, kicked the field goal to go ahead and win that sucker, as everybody thought it was about to go to overtime more than likely. How well can Riley Leonard implement this system against what I feel like is the best defense in the country in Ohio State? That's really, I feel like, what this one boils down to. I trust that Ohio State, their offense is going to score at least 21 to 28 in this game by themselves. At least 21 to 28 points in this game by themselves. How much can the defense help? Can they get another defensive score in this game or provide some short fields for the offense? Then I see that number going up to 35 maybe, that the offense could produce themselves, if they can produce some points off of turnovers. It's all going to depend on that Notre Dame offense versus this Ohio State defense, in my opinion. Notre Dame been a run-first football team, but we saw them last week against Penn State really be able to throw the football around a little bit whenever they needed to do it, and that was something that we hadn't seen from them a ton this season. So if Notre Dame can duplicate that, they're going to have to do it against, again, I'll say it again, the best defense in the country. Then I think Notre Dame has got a chance to be in this football game. But that's easier said than done. Riley Leonard is not exactly a polished passer, my friend. He'll hit a touch pass every once in a while whenever they get you all down, to the line of scrimmage, because they want to run the football. And then every once in a while they'll hit you with Great House or Mitch Evans or Faison. They do have a few little options there in the passing game that they've went to and have done it successfully in high pressure situations most recently. They're going to have to do that on an extreme level, I feel like, in this game to be able to close up this 9.5 point spread here and possibly win a national championship. What are your early thoughts on this game? We're going to go into more depth later this week. We're going to have all our stats and all our final predictions. We just want to kind of get our grasp on our thoughts on this one, kind of going into it and get our thoughts in order here just the day after Ohio State took down Texas. What are your thoughts on this one going in, Mason?
Well, this is another defensive game, and that's become a common trend here as we get further into the playoffs. These teams are defensive-led football teams, and once again, you've got the number one defense in Notre Dame, or excuse me, in Ohio State. They're number one in the country in score defense. Guess who's number two in the country, though, Mark? Notre Dame. They're number two in the country in score defense. And actually, when you look at the offenses, points per game at least is kind of what I'm looking at here. Ohio State's offense ranks 11th in the country at 35.8 points per game, and Notre Dame's ranks 4th in the country at 37 points per game. So they are almost giving up as few points on defense and scoring more points on offense. Now, do they have the same schedule? Obviously not. But I do think that that's worth pointing out. You look at how these defenses are built, and Ohio State's really good at stopping the run. They're 5th in the country in rushing yards, and they're even better at stopping the pass. They're 1st in the country when it comes to that. Obviously, Notre Dame, they want to run the ball first, right? We saw Riley Leonard this past week against Penn State. forced to throw the football because they really weren't getting much out of the run game going up against Penn State's defense. And by the way, the defensive line is getting even harder when you look at what Ohio State has been doing as of late. So you've got a tougher test. You already showed us that you couldn't really run on Penn State. Now you got to go do it against Ohio State. I think that that's going to be really, really tough for them unless Riley Leonard is able to connect in the passing game, which he did connect a few times with some players in the Penn State game, but also had the 2 interceptions. You throw 2 interceptions against Ohio State with the way that Ohio State's playing right now, you're not winning that football game. I'm sorry. If Notre Dame has a chance at winning this football game, they better play perfect on offense. Defensively, I feel pretty good about the defense going up against Ohio State, but if you don't slow number 4 down, you're not going to have a chance. If you're the Notre Dame defense, stop Jeremiah Smith. That's what Texas did, right? And Texas's defense gave the Longhorns a chance to win that football game. Now they didn't do it, but we all saw the game. We all saw that it was really close up until the very end, and Texas really in the second half of that game looked like their offense was winning against the defense up until the scoop and score from Jack Sawyer. So to me, that's the big question. If Notre Dame, obviously, they're the underdogs for a reason. I think Ohio State is really good. I think that Ohio State probably wins this football game 7 or 8 times out of 10 with the way that they're playing football right now. But the chance that Notre Dame has, even though it's a small chance, I think it gets even better if you're telling me that they win the turnover battle, they win on the ground and have more rushing yards on the ground than Ohio State does. And if you're telling me that Jeremiah Smith is held to less than 50 yards, like that's the recipe for success to me for Notre Dame in this football game. It's going to be tough, though. I said going into the semifinals that if Texas beats Ohio State, and I said that Texas would have a better chance to beat Ohio State than Notre Dame does, just based off the matchups, then if Texas beats Ohio State, then Texas could lose to Notre Dame. If Ohio State beat Texas, I said I don't really see Ohio State losing to Notre Dame, right? Just based off of matchups. I think that Texas would have been a much better matchup for Notre Dame, given what Texas is. As far as, in my opinion, I think they're a little bit less of a physical team than Ohio State, a little bit more finesse, a little bit more on the back end of the defense, which I think would bode well for Notre Dame and their offense, and as far as the matchup goes. But now that you've got Ohio State, I really feel like Ohio State is playing at a different level than everyone else in college football at this point in the season, which now obviously you've only got one other team, but this is like the Death Star version of Ohio State that, and we haven't seen a team dominate quite like they have here on the home stretch. We haven't seen a team do that all season long. We've been waiting on that bona fide number 1 team all season long. Ohio State's doing it at the right time. I think that they're favorites for a reason. As far as the line goes, I'm not ready to touch that quite yet, but I do think that Ohio State wins this football game. They look unbeatable right now, Mark. I don't know that I've seen a more dominant team since maybe 2020 Alabama, I would say, as far as just how they're playing right now in the playoffs. It's really impressive, and they're doing it in a season where they're playing 17 games, I guess 16 because they didn't play for the championship for the Big Ten. So I think they're in Death Star mode right now, Mark. I'd be really surprised if Ohio State loses this football game, but like I said, Notre Dame has some opportunities. They've got to capitalize early. They've got to get the run game established early, set up the pass game, or vice versa. However, Mike Denbrock wants to play that. I think that they've got a better coaching staff in some aspects, and maybe I shouldn't say that. Ohio State's coaching staff is really good as well, but you are going to see some really good coaching in this game on both sides of the football. Really like Jim Knowles, really like Chip Kelly. Like Tom, I like Al Golden. and Mike Denbrock for Notre Dame. I think this is going to be a really well called game, but it's players, not plays, right, Mark? So to me, I think that Ohio State's got a little bit more horses in the stable right now than Notre Dame. I think that they have a little bit more of a capable wide receiving room that's going to show up in this game. And I just feel that I'm only going to give Notre Dame like a 25% chance of winning this football game, considering all of that.
I agree with a lot of what you said there. I like the Notre Dame defense to hang in there, and at least as long as the offense for Notre Dame is sustaining some type of drives. That doesn't always necessarily mean scoring a bunch of points, but you got to get first downs and give your defense a rest. I think that is a big deal, and that ties right into what you said. Notre Dame's got to come out and start fast. They can't wait till the second half to get things going, because we haven't seen Notre Dame really get behind, right, a whole heck of a lot, really throughout the whole season. And I think it's imperative that that continues if they want to be successful in this national championship game. Don't think you can get too far behind with the type of offense that this team plays, and especially whenever you're playing a defense as good as Ohio State's, which you've covered in detail there. I mean, it is one of the best in the country. So, yeah, I think a lot of pressure falls on the quarterback position for Notre Dame, as it always does in just about every game. But Riley Leonard's going to have the game of his life, and it's going to require everybody getting involved, just like they did in the Penn State game. I don't see Notre Dame running for a bunch of yards in this game. You're going to have to be happy with 3 and 4 yard gains, I think, and you're going to have to grind it out that way. And Notre Dame's more than happy to do that, but you're going to have to hit a pop play over the top a couple of times in this game, like you did against Penn State, to be able to beat the almighty Buckeyes. We're going to break this one down in further detail later this week. Obviously, both feeling pretty good about Ohio State and their chances of winning this thing. We'll talk more about who we think is going to cover this spread, the over under. Right now, I'm kind of leaning to the under. I think, with it sitting at 45.5, but we'll talk more about that later this week. Come and join us here on the First and Long College Football Show for that.